little daughter of the millionaire, lived hidden due to a rare condition that left her very thin until the maid. Subscribe to the channel and comment where you are watching from. The mansion of Edward Vance stood imposing in Beverly Hills, its travertine marble walls reflecting the setting sun of Los Angeles. At 42 years old, Edward was the kind of man who commanded boardrooms with a mere glance. His graying hair at the temples gave him distinction, and his impeccably tailored Armani suit reinforced his reputation as a successful businessman in real estate. But behind the facade of perfection, a painful secret gnawed at his soul. On the third floor of the mansion, in a guest room that resembled a gilded prison, lived Lily, his 6-year-old daughter. The girl had huge, expressive brown eyes that dramatically contrasted with her frail body. Her ribs were visible even under her pink cotton pajamas, and her thin arms looked like tree branches in winter. The intestinal malabsorption syndrome she had suffered from since birth caused her body to reject most nutrients, leaving her in a state of chronic malnutrition that broke the heart of anyone who saw her. "Daddy, can I come down for dinner tonight?" Lily asked every night, pressing her little face against the glass door leading to the hallway. Her voice was a melancholic whisper that echoed through the cold walls of the room. Edward always looked away whenever he passed by. "Not tonight, my angel. Daddy has important guests," he replied, unable to look her directly in the eye. The truth was that his daughter's appearance deeply embarrassed him. How could he explain to his partners and clients that the powerful Edward Vance had a daughter who looked malnourished? How could he maintain his image of success and perfection? The weight of guilt was especially intense when he remembered Mariana, his late wife. She had died giving birth to Lily, after months trying to explain to Edward that her extreme thinness during pregnancy was not a whim or vanity, but a symptom of something more serious. "Ed, please listen to me. Something is wrong with me. I need more tests," she pleaded, holding her barely growing belly. But he, obsessed with business, always replied, "Relax, love. You look beautiful. It's just first-time mum anxiety." Now, 6 years later, Edward carried the remorse of not having listened to his wife and the shame of having a daughter who, in the eyes of Los Angeles society, represented imperfection. His routine was mechanical. He woke up at 6 in the morning, had coffee alone on the terrace overlooking Lake Hollywood, reviewed emails while walking on the treadmill at the private gym, and left for the office without even checking if Lily was okay. Mrs. Celia Smith, 56 years old, was the only employee who truly knew the girl's routine. Short and plump, with her graying hair always tied up in a bun, she had worked in the mansion for 3 years. Coming from Springfield, she carried in her Midwestern accent the sweetness that Edward had lost. Her calloused hands from years of cooking told stories of decades working in families' homes, always with the discretion and loyalty that wealthy employers valued. "Good morning, Princess," Celia whispered every morning as she entered Lily's room with a carefully prepared tray. "How about we try some oatmeal today? I made it just the way you like, with a little bit of honey." Lily smiled shyly. Despite her physical condition, her intelligence shone like a beacon in the darkness. At 6 years old, she was already reading children's literature and showed curiosity about everything around her. "Mrs. Celia, why doesn't Daddy like to be with me? Did I do something wrong?" The cook's heart broke with these questions. "Oh, my girl, your father loves you. He's just confused, you know. Sometimes adults get lost and don't know how to show the love they feel." Celia had lost her only daughter, Edie, in a car accident 15 years ago. The girl was only 8 when a drunk driver took her life on a Sunday afternoon in Springfield. Since then, Celia had channeled all her maternal love into the children of the families she served, Seeing Lily wither away in isolation awakened in her a maternal fury that grew with each passing day. Lily's room was a cruel contradiction, decorated with the finest imported children's furniture, yet empty of life and joy. The pink walls seemed to mock the girl's loneliness. Expensive toys remained untouched on the shelves, while Lily preferred the books that Celia secretly brought from the public library. A limited edition American Girl doll, a birthday gift from her father, lay abandoned on the floor, its designer clothes contrasting with the simplicity of what Lily truly desired: attention and affection. "You know what I wish for the most, Mrs. Celia?" Lily asked one January afternoon as the tropical rain beat against the windows of her room. "I want to have dinner at the big table downstairs, like in the movies, with cloth napkins and talking about the day." Celia swallowed the lump in her throat. "One day you will, my princess. I'm sure of it." Meanwhile, on the ground floor of the mansion, Edward was receiving a visit from Bianca Torres, his new fiancée. At 39, Bianca was a digital influencer with over 200,000 followers on Instagram. Blonde, tall, and always impeccably made up, she represented everything Edward thought he needed to complete his image of success. Her tight dresses and high heels echoed across the marble of the house like announcements of a presence that demanded attention. "Honey, we need to finalize the guest list for our engagement party," Bianca said, as she adjusted the neckline of her red dress. "I want it to be an unforgettable event. I've already talked to the planner and she suggested the Beverly Hills Hotel." Edward nodded distractedly, signing contracts while talking. "Great, dear. You decide. Just let me know the final amount." But Bianca had other plans besides the wedding. During the 6 months of their relationship, she had noticed strange movements in the house, staff coming and going with trays of food, whispered conversations about the girl on the 3rd floor, and most importantly, Edward's evasive behavior when questioned about children. "Ed, that room on the 3rd floor is always locked. What are you keeping in there?" Bianca asked with feigned innocence, playing with her hair. "It's just a storage room, love. Nothing important," Edward lied, averting his gaze to the papers on his mahogany desk. The tension in the air was palpable. 3 lives were about to collide irreversibly, and the secret Edward had kept for so long was beginning to press against the foundations of his carefully constructed existence. Lily remained in her room, dreaming of freedom, while Mrs. Celia Smith secretly planned a way to give the girl what she needed most: the chance to be seen and loved by her own father. The storm approaching Los Angeles that summer afternoon was merely a reflection of what was to come in the Turner family's life. Trying again. Chapter 2. The Unexpected Discovery. February arrived in Los Angeles with its scorching heat and torrential rains that turned the city into a cauldron of raw emotions. It was a Sunday afternoon when fate decided to shuffle the cards of the Turner family. Celia had been called in to cover for Sarah, the other staff member, who had to rush out to care for her sick mother in Riverside. "Mrs. Celia isn't leaving today?" Lily asked, her eyes shining with hope, watching the cook organize her belongings in the bedroom closet. "Today is a special day, Princess. I'm going to stay here and take care of you," Celia replied, stroking the girl's fine hair. "How about we go downstairs to prepare a nice dinner, just the 2 of us?" Lily's heart raced. For months, she had dreamed of the opportunity to leave that room that had become her gilded prison. "Really? I can go down the stairs, for real?" Celia looked around, making sure Edward had left for his Sunday run at Lake Hollywood. "Of course you can, my angel. You are the daughter of this house, not a prisoner." They slowly descended the Carrara marble stairs, Lily holding tightly to the mahogany, railing as her little bare feet felt the coldness of the floor for the first time in months. The girl was mesmerized by the vastness of the house that was hers, but that she only knew through Celia's descriptions and the sounds that echoed to her room. "Wow, it's even more beautiful than I imagined." Lily sighed upon seeing the Austrian crystal chandelier dominating the entrance hall. Her eyes widened at the sight of the dining room with its mahogany table for 12 and the leather-upholstered chairs. In the gourmet kitchen, Celia began to prepare one of her signature dishes, shepherd's pie with beef and potatoes. "I'm going to teach you a recipe from my grandmother, back in the Midwest. She always said that food made with love cures any sadness." Lily helped as best she could, washing the potatoes in the granite sink and trying to peel them with a plastic knife. Her little hands trembled a bit from the effort, but her smile was radiant. "When I grow up, I want to cook like you, Mrs. Celia, and I will make food for all the kids who feel lonely." "You will be a very special woman, Princess. I'm sure of it," Celia replied, touched by the girl's maturity. While the shepherd's pie baked in the oven, they headed to the dining room. Celia set 2 plates on the main table, lit some candles, and served lemonade in crystal glasses. Lily sat at the head of the table, unconsciously mimicking the posture she saw her father adopt during his rare appearances in the room. "Tell me about your daughter, Mrs. Celia," Lily asked as she savoured the first shepherd's pie of her life, made especially for her. Celia's eyes filled with tears. "Edward Jr. was very much like you. You know, curious, intelligent, full of dreams. She wanted to be a veterinarian to care for abandoned animals." The cook's voice choked. "Sometimes I think God brought you to me because he knew I still had so much love to give." Lily got up from her chair and hugged Celia with all the strength her fragile legs allowed. "You are like a second mother to me, the mother I can see and hug." It was exactly at that moment of tenderness that the sound of a key in the front door lock echoed through the hall. Celia felt her blood run cold. Edward shouldn't be back from his run so soon. "Lily, quick, let's go upstairs," Celia whispered, but it was too late. The dining room door opened, and Bianca Turner entered like a blonde hurricane, carrying shopping bags from the Beverly Center and talking on her phone about wedding details. She stopped instantly upon seeing the scene before her, a skeletal girl sitting at the head of the table as if she owned the house, and the cook with a look of terror. "What the hell?" Bianca dropped the bags on the floor, the noise echoing through the room. Her blue eyes widened first in surprise, then in horror as she processed what she was seeing. "Who is this child?" Lily shrank in her chair, her big eyes filling with tears. She instinctively knew she had done something wrong, even if she didn't quite understand what. "Mrs. Bianca, I can explain," Celia began, but was interrupted. "Explain? Explain what exactly?" Bianca approached the table, her heels clicking on the marble like hammers. "There's a malnourished child sitting at the dining table of my house. Where did she come from?" "Don't shout with Mrs. Celia," Lily said in a trembling but determined voice. "She was just being nice to me." Bianca stopped walking and stared intently at the girl. There was something familiar in those brown eyes, in the line of her nose, in the shape of her chin. "Wait a minute." Her voice dropped dangerously low. "Who is your father?" Before anyone could respond, Edward's deep voice echoed from the hallway. "Bianca, what's that noise?" Edward appeared in the dining room doorway, still wearing his running gear, black shorts and a sweat-soaked Nike shirt. His grey hair was tousled and still dripping with sweat. The man who commanded business empires froze completely at the sight before him. "Hi, Dad," Lily said shyly, waving from her chair. The silence that followed was deafening. Bianca looked from Edward to Lily, then to Celia, processing the information as if trying to solve an impossible puzzle. "Dad!" Bianca repeated, her voice rising an octave. "Dad! Edward, what the hell is this?" "Bianca, let me explain," Edward began, but his fiancée was already in a full-blown rage. "Explain? 6 months of dating, Edward, 6 months, and you never mentioned you had a daughter." Bianca gestured frantically, her makeup starting to run with the heat of her anger. And look at the state of this child. She looks like she hasn't eaten in weeks. I do eat, Lily defended herself quietly. Mrs. Celia makes me delicious food every day. Celia tried to position herself between the rising voices and the girl, her protective instincts on high alert. Mr. Edward, please, let's talk somewhere else. No! Bianca slammed her hand on the table, making the cutlery clatter. I want answers now. What else are you hiding from me? How many other children do you have scattered around? Edward finally found his voice, but it came out weaker than he intended. Just her, Bianca. Lily is my only daughter. And why has she been hidden? Why did I never know about her existence? Bianca's eyes sparkled with indignation and something deeper, the realization that her plans for the future had just been drastically altered. Lily began to cry softly, frightened by the shouting. Celia immediately scooped her up, murmuring words of comfort. Shh, princess, it's okay. It's not your fault. It's not okay, Bianca exploded. This is a circus. Edward, you owe me serious explanations, and if we're going to get married, this situation needs to be resolved. What kind of resolution are you suggesting? Edward asked, and there was something dangerous in his voice. Bianca looked again at Lily, who was clinging to Celia's neck as if her life depended on it. There are specialized institutions for children with special needs, places where she would receive proper care. What happened next shocked everyone. Lily lifted her head from Celia's shoulder and looked directly at Bianca. I am not a problem to be solved. I am my father's daughter, and this is my home too. The strength in the 6-year-old's voice silenced the room completely. Edward looked at his daughter as if seeing her for the first time, not as a source of shame, but as a brave human being who had just defended her place in the world. The confrontation in the dining room left a heavy silence hanging over the mansion. Bianca stormed out, slamming the door, promising to return when Edward got his house in order, while Lily was taken back to her room by a visibly shaken Celia. Edward was left alone in the room, staring at the 2 half-eaten plates on the mahogany table, the aroma of shepherd's pie, mingling with the French perfume Bianca had left in the air. That night, Edward couldn't sleep. He wandered the mansion's halls like a ghost, inevitably stopping in front of Lily's bedroom door. Through the glass, he could see his daughter's small silhouette reading a book by the light of the lamp. Even after all the chaos of the day, she continued her solitary routine with a resignation that broke his heart. Mariana, what have I done to our daughter? He murmured to the photograph of his wife he carried in his wallet. The image showed a delicate woman with brown hair and sweet eyes, holding an ultrasound in her hands. Edward remembered that day perfectly. She was radiant, discovering she was expecting a girl, even showing the first signs of the syndrome that would later manifest in Lily. The next morning, Carnival Monday, Edward made an unprecedented decision. He cancelled all meetings and decided to spend the day at home. He found Celia in the kitchen preparing breakfast coffee, her movements more cautious than usual. Mrs. Celia, we need to talk, Edward said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. His voice had a different tone, less authoritative, more vulnerable. Mr. Edward, I take full responsibility for what happened yesterday. I shouldn't have disobeyed your orders, Celia replied without looking up from the frying pan where she was cooking eggs. It's not about disobedience, Edward sighed, sitting on the counter of the modern kitchen. It's about me being a coward for the last 6 years. Celia stopped stirring the eggs and looked at him. You are not a coward. You are a lost man. There's a difference. Tell me about Lily. How is she really doing? And don't spare me, I want the truth. Celia dried her hands on her embroidered apron and stepped closer. She is the smartest child I have ever known, Mr. Edward. She reads medical books trying to understand why she is different from other children. She asks questions about the mother she never knew. and every night before she goes to sleep, she asks me if her father still loves her. Edward felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. And what do you tell her? I tell her that love sometimes hides inside the hearts of adults, but that means it doesn't exist. At that moment, Lily appeared at the kitchen door, wearing an oversized frozen pajama set that hung loosely on her fragile little body. "Good morning, Daddy," she said shyly. "Aren't you going to work today?" Edward slowly stood up and for the first time in years really looked at his daughter. He saw Mary's eyes, the shape of his own nose, the intelligence shining through her physical fragility. "Today is a holiday, my angel. I thought we could talk a little." Lily cautiously approached, like a little bird ready to fly at the slightest sudden movement. "About what?" "About you, about how you're feeling, about everything." Mrs. Celia discreetly left the kitchen, leaving father and daughter alone for the first time in a long while. Edward knelt down to be at Lily's level, noticing how small she really was for a 6-year-old. "Lily, do you know why you stay in that room most of the time?" The girl lowered her eyes. "Because I'm different. Because people get sad when they see me so thin." "And how does that make you feel?" "Lonely," Lily replied with devastating honesty. "But Mrs. Celia says that one day I'll get better, and then you won't be ashamed of me anymore." His daughter's words hit Edward like arrows to the chest. "My angel, I was never ashamed of you. I was afraid." Afraid of what? Edward struggled to find words that a 6-year-old could understand. Afraid of not knowing how to help you. Afraid of doing something wrong that would hurt you even more. Lily looked up and touched her father's face with her tiny hand. "But what really hurts me is being away from you, Daddy." At that moment, something broke inside Edward. Tears he had held back for years began to roll down his face. He carefully hugged Lily, as if she were made of crystal, feeling for the first time how much his daughter had grown away from him. "Can I tell you a secret, Daddy?" Lily whispered. "Of course, my love." "Sometimes I hear Mrs. Celia crying in the bathroom. She cries for a daughter who died, and for me too. She says it's not fair for children to suffer." Edward felt a lump in his throat. Celia had lost a daughter, and now cared for his with a love he himself had been unable to show. "Mrs. Celia is a very special person, isn't she?" "She's the best person in the world, after you," Lily quickly added, as if fearing her father would be offended. "No, my angel, she's better than me, much better." They spent the entire morning talking in the living room. Lily nestled in her father's lap for the first time since she was a baby. She talked about the books she read, the drawings she made in secret, the dreams she had of a mother she never met, but imagined in the details described by Celia. "Daddy, can I ask you a hard question?" Lily said after a while. "Sure. Why did Mommy die when I was born? Was it my fault?" Edward felt the world collapse. It was a question he asked himself every day. "No, my love, it was never your fault. Mommy had the same condition you have. She was sick, but we didn't know how to treat it, and when you were born, her body was too weak. Did she love me even without knowing me? She loved you more than anything in the world. She talked to you when you were still in her belly. She sang Beatles songs because she said you calmed down when you listened." Lily smiled for the first time genuinely. "Can I listen to the songs Mommy sang?" Edward took out his phone and played Yesterday. Lily closed her eyes and swayed her head to the rhythm as if she could feel her mother's presence through the melody. "Daddy, do you think if I get stronger, you can take me to see where Mommy is buried?" The question caught Edward off guard. He had never taken Lily to visit Mary's grave, always using the excuse that cemeteries weren't places for children. "Of course I can, my angel, when you feel ready." "I've been ready for a long time. I was just waiting for you to be ready too." His 6-year-old daughter's wisdom left Edward speechless. For the first time, he understood that it wasn't Lily who needed excessive protection. It was he who needed the courage to face life head-on. When Celia returned in the afternoon with groceries from the market, she found father and daughter sleeping together on the living room sofa, Lily using her father's chest as a pillow. The cook smiled through the tears rolling down her face. Finally, after so long, that house was starting to feel like a real home. But the peace would be brief. Bianca was already plotting her next move, and she had no intention of accepting the new reality without a fight. Mardi Gras arrived with a suffocating heat that made the asphalt shine like melted metal on the streets of Los Angeles. While Edward discovered the simple joys of being a father, Bianca Turner was scheming in her penthouse apartment in Santa Monica, with a privileged view of the ocean. Her perfectly manicured red nails tapped nervously on the glass table as she made one call after another. "Hi, my dear. How's the carnival?" Bianca said on the phone with a syrupy voice that didn't match the cold expression on her face. On the other end of the line was Clarice Ferreira, the wife of a judge from the Justice Court, and one of the most influential women in high society. "Bianca, I was just wanting to talk to you. I heard some strange comments about Edward." Clarice replied in that tone of someone who knew exactly how to spread rumors. Disguised gossip masquerading as concern. "Oh, I can imagine what this is about," Bianca sighed theatrically, gazing through the panoramic window at people enjoying themselves at the beach. "It's a very delicate situation, Clarice. I found out that Edward has a daughter he keeps, how can I put this, secluded." Secluded? Why? Bianca took a calculated pause. "The child has very serious health issues, developmental concerns, you understand. It's heartbreaking to see a child in that state." "My God! And he never told you?" 6 months of dating, Clarice. 6 months. Can you imagine the shock I felt? I'm trying to be understanding, but I don't know if I'm ready to handle this responsibility." Clarice made sympathetic sounds on the other end of the line. "I can imagine, dear. It must be terrible for both of you. There are specialized places for these situations, right? Where the child could receive proper care?" "Exactly what I've been researching," Bianca lied. "Edward is very emotionally attached, poor thing. Sometimes love blinds us to what's best for everyone involved." After hanging up, Bianca opened her laptop and began researching boarding schools and institutions for children with special needs. Her strategy was clear: to find scientific and humanitarian arguments that would convince Edward that Lily would be better off in an institution. That way, she would reclaim her perfect fiancé and the luxurious life she had planned. Meanwhile, at the mansion in Beverly Hills, a completely different scene was unfolding. Edward had decided to spend another day at home, this time taking Lily to explore the gardens of the property. The girl had never left the interior of the house, and her excitement was contagious. "Daddy, are all these flowers yours?" Lily asked, carefully approaching a blooming red rose bush in the front garden. "They're ours," Edward corrected, kneeling beside his daughter. "Everything here is ours, including you." Lily gently touched a rose petal. "Can I cut one to give to Mrs. Celia? She told me she loves red roses because they remind her of her grandmother's house in Minas." "Of course you can, my angel." Edward carefully cut the rose and handed it to Lily, watching as her eyes sparkled with happiness at such a simple gesture. How could he have spent 6 years missing moments like this? "Daddy," Lily said as they walked by the pool area, "Mrs. Celia told me that you had other girlfriends before the blonde girl from yesterday." Edward stopped walking. "Is that true? Why? Did she tell you that?" "Because I asked if you were going to marry and abandon me again," Lily replied, with a sincerity that pierced her father's heart. "She said you needed to find someone who understands that we come as a package deal." "A package deal?" "Yes. that whoever loves you has to love me too. Otherwise it doesn't work." Edward laughed for the first time in a long while, a genuine laugh that echoed through the gardens. "Your Mrs. Celia is very wise." At that moment, Celia appeared at the service area door, calling them for lunch. She had prepared chicken and okra stew, a comforting dish that filled the house with a warm aroma. "This rose is for you," Lily said shyly, offering the flower to Celia. The cook was visibly moved. "Oh, my princess, it's the most beautiful rose I've ever received in my life." She kissed the girl's forehead and then looked at Edward with gratitude. "Thank you for letting her come out for a bit, Mr. Edward. It does wonders for her soul." During lunch, Edward watched closely as Lily ate. He noticed that she chewed slowly, sometimes pausing as if battling nausea, but she made an effort to finish her plate. "Lily, is the food good?" "It's delicious, Daddy. Sometimes my tummy doesn't want to accept it, but I insist. Mrs. Celia says that's how I'll get stronger." "Have you been to the doctor for that condition?" Lily exchanged a glance with Celia. "Dr. Henry comes here once a month. He's very kind. He explained that my body works differently, but with patience and the right medicine, I can improve." Edward frowned. "Dr. Henry? Which Dr. Henry?" Celia cleared her throat. "Dr. Henry Smith, sir, a pediatrician specializing in gastroenterological disorders. I took the liberty of researching and contacting him a few months ago. You were always very busy, and the girl needed follow-up." Edward felt a mix of gratitude and guilt. "And what did he say about Lily's condition?" "That with the right treatment and nutritional support, she can lead a completely normal life," Celia replied. "He also said that the emotional side is very important. Children with this condition recover faster when they feel loved and accepted." "Why didn't you ever tell me this?" Celia hesitated before answering. "Because every time I tried to talk about doctors or treatments, you changed the subject. I thought you didn't want to know." The reality hit Edward like a slap in the face. All this time, he had assumed that Lily's condition was permanent and irreversible, using it as an excuse to keep her isolated. In fact, he had never really explored treatment possibilities. "I want to talk to this Dr. Henry today, if possible. He said he would return on Thursday for Lily's monthly follow-up," Celia informed. That afternoon, Edward cancelled all his commitments for the week. For the first time in years, his business took a back seat. He and Lily spent the rest of the day exploring the house together, she showing him the hiding spots she had discovered during her rare escapes from her room, and he rediscovering his own home through his daughter's amazed eyes. But not everything was perfect. In the afternoon, when Edward checked his phone, he found dozens of messages from Bianca. They started off affectionate, turned worried, and ended. Edward and Mrs. Celia were visibly irritated. "Edward, we need to talk urgently. I found some options that could resolve our situation." "Honey, I'm researching the Hope Institution. They have a wonderful program for children with special needs. I can't believe you're ignoring me. This is about our future together." Edward showed the messages to Mrs. Celia while Lily slept on the sofa, exhausted but smiling after the first truly happy day of her life. "What do you think I should do, Mrs. Celia?" "I think you already know the answer, Mr. Edward. The question is whether you're ready to be the father your daughter deserves, regardless of what others may think." Edward looked at Lily sleeping, her cheeks finally showing a bit of colour after a day in the sun and fresh air. The decision was made. Now he just had to find the courage to face the consequences. Thursday arrived, filled with anticipation and anxiety at the Vance mansion. Edward had spent the last 2 nights reading everything he could find online about irritable bowel syndrome with malabsorption, discovering a world of information he had ignored for years. His discoveries filled him simultaneously with hope and remorse. Dr. Henry Smith arrived promptly at 2 in the afternoon. He was a middle-aged man with greying hair and gold-rimmed glasses, carrying a worn leather briefcase and a genuine smile. Edward waited for him in the living room, visibly nervous, while Lily played with a doll that Mrs. Celia had secretly bought at the local market. "Dr. Henry!" Lily ran to hug the doctor as soon as he entered the room. "Daddy is going to stay for the appointment today." "How wonderful, Lily. I finally get to meet this famous dad you always mention," the doctor replied, returning the hug with genuine warmth. Edward stood up, extending his hand formally. "Edward Vance, I apologize for not attending the previous appointments. Work issues." "I can imagine," Dr. Henry replied diplomatically, "but the important thing is that you're here now. Lily always talks a lot about you." "She does? Of course, my daddy is very important. My daddy works hard to take care of me. One day my daddy will take me to the beach." The doctor smiled. "She is very proud of you." Edward felt a lump in his throat. Lily saw him as a hero when he had actually been a coward. "Doctor, I need to understand exactly what my daughter's condition is and what the treatment options are." "Let's start with the basics then." Dr. Henry opened his briefcase and took out a folder with Lily's tests. "Your daughter has irritable bowel syndrome with malabsorption, likely hereditary. It's a condition that affects approximately 2% of the population, but it can be treated effectively." "Treated? What do you mean treated?" The doctor showed graphs and detailed explanations. "With a specific diet, proper supplementation of vitamins and minerals, probiotics, and psychological support, Lily can gain weight and develop normally. The emotional aspect is crucial. Isolated children have much more difficulty recovering." Edward felt as if he were hearing information about someone else. "But she's so thin, so fragile." "Because she spent years without proper treatment." The doctor was direct but gentle. "Mr. Vance, can I speak frankly? Please. Lily is malnourished not only due to her medical condition, but also due to a lack of social and emotional stimulation. Children need to feel loved and accepted for their bodies to respond positively to treatments. In the last 3 months, since Mrs. Celia started following my nutritional guidelines and spending more time with Lily, she has already gained 2 pounds. Edward looked at his daughter, who was distractedly organizing the doll's clothes. She really did seem a little less fragile than he remembered. "How long would it take for her to be normal?" "Normal?" Dr. Henry repeated. "Mr. Vance, Lily is already normal. She is an intelligent, loving, and resilient child who just needs the right treatment. With dedication, in 6 months she could be at the ideal weight for her age. And the risks? Minimal as long as we follow the protocol. The biggest risk is to continue as she is, isolated and without proper treatment." Mrs. Celia, who had been watching from the door, approached discreetly. "Doctor, could you explain to Mr. Edward the importance of socialization that you always talk about?" "Oh, yes." The doctor became animated. "Lily needs social stimulation, interaction with other children, outings, normal activities for a 6-year-old girl, school, playground, birthday parties. This is as important as the medication." "School?" Edward repeated as if the word was strange. "Of course. She is of school age. A school prepared for her initial needs would be ideal, but even a regular school with teachers aware of the situation would work perfectly." Lily lifted her head upon hearing the word school. "Daddy, can I go to school? With other kids?" The hope in his daughter's eyes felt like a dagger to Edward's chest. "We can talk about it, my angel. Actually," the doctor continued, "I have a recommendation. The Growing Together School in Santa Monica has experience with children who have gone through social isolation. The principal, Ms. Mary, specializes in child social readjustment." After the appointment, while Lily took a nap, Edward and Mrs. Celia talked on the porch overlooking the garden. The businessman was visibly shaken by the information he had received. "Mrs. Celia, why didn't you ever force me to listen to this information before?" Mrs. Celia sighed, looking at the flowers that Lily had helped water earlier. "Because you weren't ready to hear it. Father must have an open heart to be able to help his child. You were closed off by the pain of losing your wife. And now, do you think I'm ready? I think you're on the right path. I've seen you look at Lily with love these past few days, not with—" The phone rang for Edward. It was Bianca, for the 10th time that day. "Hey, love! Finally! I can't wait to see you. I have a wonderful surprise for us." "Bianca, where are you?" "I'm downstairs at the lobby. The doorman won't let me up. Can you come down or send someone to get me?" Edward looked at Celia, who just shook her head negatively. "Bianca, this isn't a good time." "What do you mean it's not a good time?" "Edward, we're engaged, and I have amazing news about that situation we talked about." "What news?" "I'm not going to say it over the phone. Please come down." Edward sighed. He knew this confrontation was inevitable. "All right, I'm coming down." In the lobby of the building, Bianca was waiting for him, dressed in a bright pink Chanel outfit, her hair impeccably styled despite the heat, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. In her hands, she carried a stylish folder and a tablet. "Love," she dramatically kissed him, "you have no idea how much work I put into this, but I found the perfect solution for our problems." "Our problems?" "Lily's situation, obviously." Bianca opened the tablet and showed him a colorful page. "Look at this. Hope Institute in Palm Springs. It's a therapeutic residence specialized in children with disabilities and special needs. They have 24-hour doctors, nutritionists, therapists, everything she needs." Edward looked at the images. Smiling children, well-kept gardens, uniformed professionals. It seemed too perfect to be real. And why would she need to stay there? "It's not an admission, love, it's specialized care. Look here." Bianca swiped her finger across the screen. "They have an intensive nutritional recovery program. In 6 months, she would be completely recovered, far from home. But with professional care. Edward, you saw her condition. It's not fair to keep her in this situation, and it's not fair to us either." Edward closed the tablet. "Bianca, I just spoke with Lily's doctor. She can be treated at home with proper support." "One doctor or several specialists?" Bianca shot back. "Love, I know it's hard, but sometimes loving means knowing when to let go, for her sake. And for our sake too, right?" Bianca noticed the dangerous tone in her fiancé's voice. "Of course, for our sake too. There's nothing wrong with wanting to build a healthy family. Lily will be well cared for, and we can visit her whenever we want. Once or twice a month, according to this brochure you brought. It's to not disturb her treatment, Edward. Please think rationally, not emotionally." Edward looked at Bianca, her blonde hair shining in the sun, her perfect nails, her expensive outfit, her calculated argument, and finally understood who she really was. "You know, Bianca, you're right about one thing. Sometimes loving means knowing when to let go." "Great. So you agree with the Institute?" "No, I'm talking about us." The silence that followed Edward's words echoed through the lobby like thunder. Bianca blinked several times, as if processing information in a foreign language. Her blue eyes, always so calculating, now showed genuine surprise. "What did you say?" she asked, her voice rising an octave. "You heard me right, Bianca. I'm ending our engagement. Because of a sick child you barely cared for until last week." Her voice was getting shrill, and some residents passing through the lobbies started to look. Edward felt a strange calm wash over him. For the first time in years, his priorities were crystal clear. "Because of my daughter, whom I finally understood is the most important thing in my life." Bianca dropped the tablet, which crashed onto the marble floor of the lobby. Edward, you're being irrational. Think about what you're doing. We had plans. The Beverly Hills Hotel is booked. The invitations have already been ordered. Cancel everything. I'll cover the costs. It's not about money, she shouted, her concern for public image evaporating. It's about us, about our future. You're going to throw all of this away for a child who isn't even normal. The mention of Lily as not normal was the last straw for Edward. His voice dropped dangerously low. Never refer to my daughter that way again. But it's the truth, Edward. Look at her. She looks like a skeleton. And you want to build a family around that? The doorman, Mr. Oswald, a 60-year-old man who had worked at the building for 2 decades, discreetly stepped away but continued to observe. He had known Edward since the businessman bought the apartment and had never witnessed a scene like this. The family is already built, Bianca. I just took too long to realize it. Bianca quickly changed her strategy, tears magically appearing. Love, I know you're emotional right now, but think it through. What will our life be like? You working, me trying to care for a sick child. It won't work. And when we have our own kids, how will you explain to them about their different sister? Our kids. Yes, remember, we wanted 2 boys. And a girl, a perfect family. Edward shook his head, incredulous. You really don't get it, do you? We're not having kids together, Bianca, because we're not having a life together. Edward, please. She tried to touch his arm, but he pulled away. It's over, Bianca. And to be honest, I don't think it ever really started. You fell in love with my bank account, not with me. Bianca's face twisted in anger. My bank account? You think I need your money? I have my own career, my own followers. 200,000 followers don't pay for an apartment in Santa Monica or designer clothes, Edward replied calmly. But don't worry, I'm sure you'll find another investor for your lifestyle. Bianca bent down, picked up the cracked tablet, and quickly composed herself. Her years of pretending to be an influencer had taught her to bounce back quickly from embarrassing situations. You're going to regret this, Edward Vance. When you tire of playing dad, dedicated and realizing that he has given up a real life for a fantasy, he will remember what he lost. I don't think so, Bianca, because I finally understood what real life is. She turned to leave, but stopped and looked back one last time. And don't come looking for me when the novelty wears off and you realize you don't have the patience to care for a special needs child. Lily is not a special needs child. She is a normal child with a treatable medical condition, but even if she weren't, she is my daughter. Bianca stormed out, her heels echoing in the hall until she disappeared into the parking lot. Edward stood still for a few minutes, processing what had just happened. Surprisingly, he felt no regret or sadness, only immense relief. Sorry to intrude. Dr. Edward, Mr. Oswald said as he approached, but you did the right thing. That girl was no good. She always treated us at the front desk like trash. Edward smiled sadly. How did everyone else see what I couldn't, Mr. Oswald? Because when we don't want to see, we become blind, but what matters is that you opened your eyes in time. Edward returned home with a lightness he hadn't felt in years. He found Lily and Celia in the kitchen, preparing chocolate truffles to celebrate the special appointment with Dr. Henry. Daddy! Lily ran to hug him, covered in chocolate. Mrs. Celia is teaching me how to make truffles. Want to try? Of course, my love. Lily scooped a spoonful of the still warm mixture and offered it to her father. Is it good? It's perfect, Edward replied, and for the first time in a long time, he was speaking absolute truth. Daddy, can I ask you something? Sure. Is the blonde girl not coming here anymore? Edward knelt to his daughter's level. No, my angel. She won't be coming anymore. Because of me? No, Lily, because of us. Because now I understand that the 2 of us are A family, and anyone who wants to be part of our family has to accept us both together." Lily smiled and hugged her father, leaving chocolate stains on his dress shirt. "I like it better when it's just the three of us. You, me, and Mrs. Celia." Celia, who had been listening while stirring the truffles on the stove, discreetly wiped away a tear rolling down her cheek. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Edward and Celia discussed the next steps. Sitting on the porch with a gentle breeze coming from the ocean, they planned a new routine. "Mrs. Celia, I want you to know that your dedication to Lily hasn't gone unnoticed, and I want to make some changes." "What kind of changes, Mr. Edward?" "First, I want to raise your salary. A lot. You are not just an employee, you are family. Second, I want you to have a full health plan and a retirement plan." Celia was left speechless. "Mr. Edward, It's not a favor, Mrs. Celia. It's recognition. You took care of my daughter when I was too cowardly to do it. You saved her life, and in a way you saved mine too. And the school? Are you going to enroll Lily?" "I'll call tomorrow to schedule a visit to the school Dr. Henry recommended, and I want you to come with me. Lily trusts you more than she trusts me for these things." "I'll definitely go with you." Edward looked at the stars beginning to appear in the Los Angeles sky. "Mrs. Celia, can I ask you a personal question?" "Sure. Why didn't you start a new family after losing your daughter?" Celia sighed. "Because I thought I didn't deserve to be happy again, that I had failed as a mother by letting Edward Jr. die. But it wasn't your fault. Just like Lily's syndrome isn't your fault," she replied wisely. "Sometimes we punish ourselves for things that are beyond our control. And now, how do you feel?" "I feel that God has given me a second chance to be a mother, and you a second chance to be a father." Edward smiled. "Then let's do it right this time." "Yes, Mr. Edward, let's do it." Inside, Lily slept peacefully for the first time in years, dreaming of schools, new friends, and a life where she wouldn't have to hide anymore. The nightmare was coming to an end, and a new story was just beginning. The following Saturday marked a historic date in Lily's life: her first trip to the mall. Edward had decided it was time to give his daughter normal childhood experiences, starting with buying appropriate clothes for a 6-year-old girl who would finally gain weight with the right treatment. "Daddy, it's so big," Lily whispered in awe as she entered the Santa Monica Mall, her little eyes wide at the immensity of the place. She held tightly to Edward's hand with one hand and Celia's with the other, as if she would get lost in that gigantic world. "It is big, my love, but it's ours to explore," Edward replied, noticing how some people discreetly looked at his daughter. Lily was wearing one of the few dresses that still fit her, a pink dress that Celia had bought the previous year, which was now too loose, highlighting her thinness even more. Celia noticed Edward's discomfort with the stairs. "Mr. Edward, don't worry about that. Soon she will be so beautiful and healthy that those same people won't be able to take their eyes off her in admiration." The first stop was at the Saraiva bookstore. Lily was mesmerized by the children's section, running her little fingers along the colorful spines of the books as if they were the greatest treasure in the world. "Can I choose a book, Daddy?" she asked shyly. "You can choose as many as you want," Edward replied, immediately regretting it when he saw his daughter's eyes light up dangerously. Lily chose 3 books: The Little Prince, Alice in Wonderland, and a book of Brazilian fairy tales. Edward was impressed with the sophisticated choices for a 6-year-old. "Why did you choose these specific books, my angel?" "Because The Little Prince is about someone who feels different and alone, like me. Alice falls down a hole and discovers a new world, just like I'm discovering now. And the Brazilian fairy tales because I want to know stories from my country," Lily explained seriously. Edward and Mrs. Celia exchanged impressed glances. Lily's intelligence was truly exceptional. At the children's clothing store, the saleswoman, a young woman in her 20s named Patricia, initially showed some hesitation upon seeing Lily. "Do you have clothes in size 4T?" Edward asked. "For her?" Patricia inquired, looking at Lily strangely. "She's 6, right? Maybe it would be better to look in the special section." "She doesn't need the special section," Edward interrupted, his voice becoming slightly tense. "She needs pretty clothes in the size that fits her, like any child." Mrs. Celia approached Lily, who had been intimidated by the saleswoman's attitude. "How about we choose the colors you like the most, Princess?" Lily pointed to dresses in shades of purple, blue, and aqua. "I like these colors because they remind me of the sea I see from my bedroom window." Patricia, overhearing the conversation, began to relax and became more helpful. "How lovely. I'll set aside some options in those colors for you to try on." In the fitting room, Mrs. Celia helped Lily try on the dresses. "That purple looks beautiful on you, Princess. It brings out the color of your eyes." "Really, Mrs. Celia, I don't look even skinnier." "You're not too skinny, Lily. You are just as you are now, and you look beautiful. And you'll look even more beautiful when you gain weight with Dr. Henry's treatment." When Lily came out of the fitting room, wearing a navy blue outfit with white details, Edward felt his chest tighten with emotion. His daughter looked beautiful, and more importantly, she was smiling. "How do I look, Daddy?" "You look perfect, my love. The most beautiful girl in the whole mall." Lily laughed and twirled around, making the skirt sway. It was at that moment that she slightly stumbled, still not used to closed shoes after months of wearing only slippers in her room. "Ouch!" she exclaimed, but Edward caught her before she fell. "Be careful, my angel. Your little feet are still getting used to going out in shoes." At that moment, a girl Lily's age, accompanied by her mother, approached curiously. "Mom, why is that girl so skinny?" The other girl's mother looked visibly embarrassed. "Shh, Julia. It's not polite to make comments like that." But Lily heard and shrank back behind Edward. Mrs. Celia immediately positioned herself next to the girl. "It's okay, Princess. Different people have different bodies." Edward knelt down to Lily's level. "My love, do you remember what we talked about regarding your medical condition? That my body works differently, but that I will get stronger." "Exactly. And in the meantime, you are perfect just the way you are." The other girl's mother approached, clearly wanting to apologize. "I'm sorry, "No need to apologize," Edward replied gently. "Kids are curious. It's part of it." The woman smiled gratefully. "Your daughter is very beautiful. Her eyes are stunning." Lily shyly stepped out from behind her father. "Thank you. Your daughter is beautiful too." The two girls looked at each other with natural childhood curiosity. "Do you want to play with me?" Julia asked. Lily looked at Edward, who nodded encouragingly. "I can, but I don't know how to play much with other kids. I'll teach you. Come see the toys we have here in the store." Edward watched, moved, as the two girls chatted about dolls and cartoons. It was Lily's first social interaction with a child her age. "She's very sweet," commented Julia's mother. "Can I ask, is there a food issue?" "Intestinal malabsorption syndrome," Edward explained, "but she is in treatment. Soon she will be at a normal weight." "That's great. Julia loved meeting her. If you want, I can leave my contact. I always take Julia to the playground in the condo on Sunday mornings." Edward hesitated for a moment, then smiled. "That would be great. Lily needs to meet other kids." After buying 5 complete outfits, new shoes and accessories, they headed to the food court. Edward had previously researched which restaurants would have suitable options for Lily's diet. At the natural food restaurant, Lily tried eating in public for the first time. She chose a quinoa salad with grilled chicken and cherry juice, following Dr. Henry's guidelines. "Is it good, Princess?" Mrs. Celia asked. "It is, and a lot of people are watching us eat," Lily observed innocently. "Is that normal?" Edward looked around and noticed that indeed some people were discreetly watching them. "Sometimes people are curious, but it's okay. We have the right to be here just like any family. We are a real family, right, Daddy? You, me, and Mrs. Celia? We are, my love. A small family, but very united." Lily smiled and continued eating, completely ignoring the stares. Her confidence was growing with every minute outside of isolation. On the way home, Lily fell asleep in the back seat of the car, hugging her copy of The Little Prince. Edward watched in the rearview mirror as she looked peaceful and, for the first time, truly happy. "Mrs. Celia," he said softly, so as not to wake Lily. "Thank you." "For what, Mr. Edward?" "For being the mother she needed when I couldn't be the father she deserved." Celia smiled, looking affectionately at Lily sleeping. "She brought purpose back into my life too, Mr. Edward. We are indeed a family, small but full of love." Edward drove home knowing that this had only been the first of many special days he would share with his daughter. The world was opening up for Lily, and finally he was too, ready to accompany her on this journey. Monday arrived filled with anticipation and nerves. Edward had scheduled a visit to the Growing Together school to tour the facilities and talk with the principal about the possibility of enrolling Lily. The girl woke up earlier than usual, anxious about the prospect of finally seeing a real school. "Daddy, will the kids at school like me?" Lily asked as Mrs. Celia brushed her brown hair into two delicate braids. She was wearing one of the new outfits bought at the mall, a lilac top with a denim skirt, which, although still a bit loose, made her look like a normal girl ready for school. "They will love you, my angel. It's impossible not to like such a special girl like you," Edward replied, nervously adjusting his tie. He had chosen a more casual outfit for the visit, dark jeans and a blue dress shirt, trying to appear as a normal dad, not an intimidating businessman. The Growing Together school was located in a spacious, colorful house in Santa Monica, with well-kept gardens where children played freely. Walls painted with childlike drawings and a welcoming facade gave the place a homey feel, not that of an institution. The principal, Miss Mary Smith, personally welcomed them at the gate. She was a black woman in her 50s, with curly hair pulled back in a colorful bun, wearing a floral dress and comfortable sneakers. Her genuine smile and warm hug immediately reassured Lily. "You must be Lily," said Miss Mary, kneeling to the girl's height. "What a joy to meet you. Dr. Henry told me so much about a very smart girl who loves books." Lily shyly hid behind Edward, but replied softly, "I brought my favorite book to show." "How wonderful! You can tell me the story later, okay?" As they walked through the school's hallways, Miss Mary explained the institution's philosophy. "Here we work with the concept of inclusive and welcoming education. Every child is unique, and we respect each one's pace and needs." The classrooms were small and colorful, with a maximum of 15 students each. Lily observed everything with fascinated eyes, children painting, reading in groups, playing with educational games. "Can I ask a question, Miss Mary?" Lily said when they stopped in front of a classroom where children her age were doing a math activity with colorful blocks. "Of course, dear. Do the kids here get sad if a friend is too skinny?" The girl's direct question caught everyone by surprise. Miss Mary knelt down again. "Lily, here we teach that every person is special in their own way. We have tall kids, short ones, skinny, chubby, with glasses, braces, and they are all loved and respected. And what if I can't keep up with the lessons because I sometimes get really tired? Then you take a little break and continue when you feel better. There's no rush to learn. There's a right time for every child." Edward was impressed with the principal's sensitivity in addressing Lily's concerns clearly and reassuringly. During the visit to the school library, Lily was enchanted. It was a cozy space with colourful cushions on the floor, low shelves within the children's reach, and a special reading nook with animal-shaped poofs. "Wow! Can I take any book?" she asked in amazement. "Anyone, my dear. And if you can't find one you want to read, you can ask the librarian, and she'll get it for you," replied the librarian, a friendly young woman named Emily. Lily ran to a shelf and picked up a book about astronomy. "Look, Daddy, there's a book about the stars I see from my window." "Do you like astronomy, Lily?" Miss Mary asked. "I do. I always look at the stars and wonder if there are other kids like me looking at them on other planets." The principal smiled, touched. "What a beautiful thought. Did you know we have an astronomy project here at school? We build a homemade telescope and observe the moon and stars." Lily's eyes sparkled like two stars. "Really? Can I join?" "If your parents agree, of course you can." When they reached the playground, there were children playing on the swings. A girl with curly hair and braces approached curiously. "Hi, are you new here?" she asked cheerfully. Lily looked at Edward, who nodded encouragingly. "I don't study here yet. I'm just getting to know the school." "Cool. I'm Sophia. Want to play on the swing with me?" "Can I?" Lily asked Miss Mary. "Of course. You'll have fun." Edward watched, his heart tight with emotion, as his daughter played on the swing with another child for the first time in her life. Lily laughed genuinely, asking Sophia to push her higher. "What's her name again?" Sophia asked Edward. "Lily." "What a pretty name. Lily, do you want to be my friend?" "I do," Lily replied without hesitation. After recess, Miss Mary took them to her office for a private conversation. Lily stayed in the library with Emily, browsing through children's books. "Mr. Edward, may I speak frankly?" the principal began. "Please do." "Lily is an exceptional child. Her intelligence is above average for her age, but emotionally she needs special care due to the isolation she has experienced." "What kind of care?" "Patience for socialization, understanding of possible initial shyness, and most importantly, a lot of love and encouragement. Children who have gone through isolation sometimes fear expressing themselves or participating." Mrs. Celia, who had been quiet throughout the visit, finally spoke up. "Miss Mary, Lily is a very affectionate girl. She just needs the opportunity to show that." "I'm sure, Mrs. Celia, and from what I've observed today, she is ready for this new phase. The question is, are you prepared for the necessary adjustments?" "What adjustments?" Edward asked. "Lily may face some initial challenges. She might cry from separation in the first few days. She may tire more easily, and it might take her some time to fit in. Completely, they need to be ready to support this process." Edward looked out the window of the room and saw Lily in the garden, showing other children how to do origami, a skill she had taught herself in her room. The children were fascinated by her dexterity. "Miss Mary, we want to enroll Lily today, if possible." "That's great. I'll prepare all the paperwork. She can start tomorrow if you'd like." "Tomorrow?" Edward repeated, surprised. "Why wait? The sooner she integrates into the school routine, the better for her social development." When they went to pick up Lily to leave, she was telling an invented story to a group of children who listened to her, mesmerized. "Daddy, can I come back here tomorrow?" she asked hopefully. "Of course, my love. You will study here starting tomorrow." Lily squealed with joy and hugged Edward tightly. "Really? I'm going to have real friends." "Many friends, Princess," Mrs. Celia said, moved. "And can Sophia come to our house one day to see my books?" Edward smiled. "Of course she can, my angel. Our home is open to all your friends." On the way home, Lily couldn't stop talking about everything she had seen at school. Her eyes sparkled with a joy Edward hadn't seen since she was a baby. Mrs. Celia, did you see? Miss Mary said I can help with the library books, and there's a project to plant flowers in the school garden, and music classes where we learn to play real instruments. I did see, Princess. You're going to have so much fun. That night, Lily slept hugging her new books and the school uniform, a light blue shirt with the school logo embroidered, already set on her bedside table. She was ready to start the biggest adventure of her life, being a normal child with friends, school, and dreams for the future. Edward watched his daughter sleep for a long time, knowing that the next day would mark a new phase for both of them. Lily was ready to conquer the world, and he was finally prepared to let her fly. The alarm clock went off at 6 in the morning, but Lily had already been awake for an hour, looking out the window as the sun rose over Los Angeles. It was her official first day of school, and the mix of anxiety and excitement made her stomach flutter like butterflies. In a garden. "Good morning, Princess." Celia entered the room carrying a special tray. "I prepared a special breakfast for your big day." On the tray was oatmeal with banana and honey, whole grain toast with cream cheese, fresh orange juice, and as a surprise, a tiny chocolate truffle. "For good luck on your first day," Celia explained with a warm smile. "Mrs. Celia, what if the kids don't like me? What if I can't do the activities? What if I get really hungry at school?" Lily fired off the questions while eating her oatmeal slowly, savoring each spoonful. "My girl, you're impossible not to like. And look here." Celia showed a pink insulated lunchbox. "I prepared special snacks that Dr. Henry approved, and Miss Mary already knows you can eat whenever you need." Edward appeared at the door of the room already dressed for work, but this time he wasn't going straight to the office. He had reorganized his entire schedule to personally take Lily to school for the first few days. "How's our student?" he asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Nervous but happy," Lily answered honestly. "Daddy, do you think I'll be a good student?" "My love, you're already the best student I know. You read books that much older kids can't understand. You ask smart questions. You're curious and kind. Any school would be lucky to have you." While Lily finished getting ready, Celia and Edward talked in the kitchen. "Mr. Edward, I prepared an emergency kit." Celia showed a discreet bag. "It has her medicine, the cereal bars she likes, a bottle of homemade electrolyte solution, and Dr. Henry's phone number. And I asked Miss Mary to call me if she needs anything. Mrs. Celia, aren't you going to work today?" "I'll be on standby here near the school. I know it's an exaggeration, but it's the first day. I want to be close by in case she needs me." Edward smiled. Celia loved Lily as if she were her own daughter, and this dedication touched him deeply. The journey to school was filled with conversation. Lily, sitting in the back seat with her new backpack on her lap, watched everything out the window with renewed interest. "Look, Daddy, that building over there is where we bought the books on Saturday, and that's where Sophia said she lives." She pointed excitedly at various places. "You're remembering the way well, huh?" "Yes, that way I can teach Mrs. Celia when she picks me up." At the school gate, several children were arriving with their parents. Lily discreetly observed how other families said goodbye, trying to understand the dynamics of this new world. Sophia ran to greet her as soon as she saw her. "Lily, you came? How cool! Today is art class, my favorite subject." "Art class?" Lily's eyes sparkled. "Yes, we're going to learn how to make paint with natural ingredients. Miss Mary Ann is the coolest of all." Miss Mary approached the group. "Good morning, Vance family. Ready for the adventure, Lily?" "I think so," Lily replied, but her hand tightened around Edward's. "It's normal to feel a little nervous on the first day. Do you want me to show you where your classroom is?" Lily looked at Edward and then at Celia. "Are you going to leave now?" "I'm going to work, but Mrs. Celia will stay close by until it's time to pick you up." Edward knelt down to his daughter's level. "And you have my phone number in your agenda, Miss Mary, if you need anything." And what if I miss you? Remember that in a few hours we will be together again, and you will have many stories to tell me." Lily took a deep breath, just like she had seen Edward do when he was nervous about important meetings. "Okay, I will try to be brave." "You are already brave, my angel." The farewell was emotional but quick. Lily waved from the classroom window as Edward and Mrs. Celia left. When they looked back one last time, she was already sitting next to Sophie, flipping through a science book. In the office, Edward tried to focus on the meetings, but his mind was constantly at school. Mrs. Celia sent updates via text every hour. 9 a.m. I saw her at recess playing with other kids. She is smiling. 11 a.m. Ms. Mary said she participated in math class and helped a classmate who was struggling. 1 p.m. At lunchtime she ate everything and asked for more salad. Miracle. At 3:30 p.m. Edward left the office early to pick up Lily. He found Mrs. Celia at the school entrance, chatting with other mothers and caregivers. "How did she do?" he asked anxiously. "Better than we imagined," replied Miss Mary, who approached with Lily by her side. The girl came running, her cheeks rosy and a radiant smile on her face. "Daddy! Daddy! You won't believe the day I had." Lily threw herself into her father's arms. "Tell me everything, my love." "I learned to make blue paint with purple cabbage, and in science class the teacher explained why plants are green. And João, who sits in front of me, lent me his pencil when mine broke. And in the library, I read a story to the whole class." Edward laughed at his daughter's excitement. "Wow! All of that in just one day. And tomorrow we will have music class. Miss Mary said we're going to learn to play the recorder." "Lily excelled in all the activities," commented Miss Mary, "especially during story time. She has a very special way of telling stories." "It's true! The kids were mesmerized when she invented a story about a star that felt lonely," added Sophie, who had come to say goodbye to her new friend. On the way home, Lily didn't stop talking for a single minute. She told about each teacher, each classmate, each activity, with details that impressed Edward and Mrs. Celia. "And you know what else, Daddy? Miss Mary said that next Monday we are going to do a project about families. Everyone will present their family to the class." "How cool! And what are you going to say about our family?" Lily thought for a moment. "I will say that my daddy is very hard-working and loves me a lot, that Mrs. Celia is like a second mom that God gave me, and that the three of us are small but full of love." Mrs. Celia discreetly wiped away a tear rolling down her face. "And I will also say that my mommy is in heaven, but she left me a very special family here on earth." That night, during dinner, Lily continued to talk about her first day. She had eaten well, participated in all the activities, made new friends, and most importantly, felt completely accepted and included. "Daddy, can I ask you something?" "Of course, my love." "Why did it take you so long to take me to school? I was ready a long time ago." The question hit Edward hard. Because I was scared." "Scared of what?" "Scared that you would get hurt. Scared that other people wouldn't understand how special you are. Scared of losing you." Lily reflected on the answer. "But Daddy, you can't live without fear if you're afraid to live, right?" The wisdom of his 6-year-old daughter left Edward speechless. "Where did you learn that, my angel?" "Miss Mary said that today in class. She said that art is about being brave enough to show what we feel inside." That night, Lily went to sleep with a smile on her face, and her school agenda hugged to her chest. Her world had expanded exponentially in just one day, and she was eager to discover what else life had to offer her. Edward stayed awake late, processing the incredible transformation he had witnessed. In just a few days, Lily had gone from an isolated and sad child to a confident and sociable girl. The secret was not in medications or special treatments. It was simply in love, acceptance, and opportunity. 3 months had passed since Lily's first day of school, and the transformation was nothing short of miraculous. The girl who once hid in her room had become one of the most beloved children at growing together. Her brown hair now shone with health, her cheeks had gained a rosy color, and she had gained 5 pounds, a progress that even impressed Dr. Henry. It was a sunny Saturday morning when Edward woke up to the sound of laughter coming from the garden. Looking out of his bedroom window, he saw Lily playing with Sophie and 3 other classmates, all gathered around a special project they had planned, a butterfly garden. "Daddy, come see!" Lily shouted when she noticed her father at the window. "The butterflies came to visit our garden." Edward went down to the garden, still in his pajamas and slippers, finding the children fascinated by a monarch butterfly delicately perched on one of the lavender flowers they had planted. "Look how beautiful it is, Uncle Edward," said Sophie, who now naturally called Edward Uncle. Lily said that butterflies are like people. First they hide in a cocoon, then they come out flying free and colourful. Edward looked at his daughter, impressed by the analogy. "Very wise, my love." "Miss Mary taught me," Lily smiled. "She said that everyone has their own time to transform." Celia appeared carrying a pitcher of cold lemonade and colourful cups. In recent months, she had become not just the official housekeeper, but truly part of the family. Edward had kept his promise. He significantly increased her salary, provided a comprehensive health plan, and even renovated her room, turning it into a comfortable suite. "Who wants lemonade from Mrs. Celia?" she announced, immediately surrounded by the children. I want, they all chorused together. As the children drank lemonade and returned to playing, Edward sat on the garden bench with Celia, watching the scene with deep contentment. "Mrs. Celia, sometimes I look at Lily now and can't believe she's the same girl from a few months ago. She has always been special, Mr. Edward. She just needed the opportunity to show it." "And how are you feeling about all these changes?" Celia smiled, watching Lily teach her friends how to make origami on the stone bench in the garden. "I feel complete for the first time in 15 years. Since I lost my Edward Jr., I thought I would never have purpose in life again. Lily has given me back the joy of being a mother." At that moment, Edward's phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello? Edward, it's Bianca." Edward felt his stomach tighten. In the 3 months since their breakup, Bianca had tried to reach out a few times, but he always ignored her. This time he decided to answer. "What do you want, Bianca?" "I want to talk. Can I come over?" "I don't think that's a good idea." "Please, Edward, just 5 minutes. I need to see you." Edward looked at Lily, who was patiently explaining to a little friend how to fold paper to make a frog. "Bianca, my life has changed completely. We have nothing more to discuss." "I know. I made mistakes. Let me explain." Against his better judgment, Edward agreed. 5 minutes, but don't come inside. I'll meet you at the gate." An hour later, Edward went down to meet Bianca. She looked visibly different. Less styled hair, simpler makeup, wearing jeans and a basic top. She looked human. "Hi," she said shyly. "Hi. Speak quickly because I have an appointment." "Edward, I wanted to apologize for what I said about Lily, for how I behaved. It wasn't right." Edward studied her, trying to detect ulterior motives. "And why are you apologizing now?" Bianca sighed deeply. "Because in these 3 months I've had time to think, and I realized I lost the best thing that ever happened to me out of pure greed and superficiality." "The best thing?" You mean my bank account? No, she exclaimed. You! Your integrity, your kindness. I saw how you changed to take care of your daughter, and that made me realize what kind of man you really are. Edward shook his head. Bianca, you had 6 months to know who I really was. You chose to see only what interested you. I know, and that was my mistake, but now I understand what is truly important. And what do you think is important? Family. True love, caring for those we love. At that moment, the sound of children's laughter echoed from the garden. Edward smiled automatically upon recognizing Lily's crystal-clear giggle. Edward, will you give me a second chance? I promise I understand now. I can learn to love Lily too. Edward stared at Bianca. You know what the problem is, Bianca. You still don't understand. Lily is not something you need to learn to tolerate to access me. She is my #1 priority, and she always will be. And I don't need someone who will learn to love her. I need someone who loves her naturally as part of who I am. But I can... No, Bianca, you can't. Because true love is not something that is learned out of convenience. It's something you feel, or you don't feel. Bianca began to cry. Please, Edward, I've changed. Maybe you have changed, and I hope you find someone who deserves this new version of you. But it's not me. Is it because of the housekeeper? Are you two together now? Edward laughed, genuinely amused. Mrs. Celia is family, Bianca. She is the grandmother Lily never had. Our relationship is one of mutual respect and care for the child we both love. Then why? Because I learned that it's better to be alone than in bad company, and because Lily and I are already a complete family. Bianca wiped her tears and nodded slowly. I understand. Can I at least meet Lily? See how she is? Edward thought for a moment. No, Bianca. She is happy and secure now. I won't risk disturbing that by bringing back someone who once suggested she should be institutionalized. I was wrong. You were. And some things don't have a return. Bianca nodded, defeated. You're right. I hope you both are very happy. We already are, Edward replied sincerely. After Bianca left, Edward went back upstairs. He found Lily in the living room, showing her school drawings to visiting friends. Daddy, come see the drawing I made of our family. She ran to show a piece of paper where there were 3 smiling figures, a tall man, a woman in an apron, and a little girl, all holding hands. This is you, this is Mrs. Celia, and this is me. It's beautiful, my love. Can I hang it on the fridge? You can. And Daddy, can I tell you a secret? Of course. Lily leaned in and whispered in her father's ear, I am the happiest girl in the whole wide world. Edward hugged his daughter, feeling his heart overflow with gratitude. And I am the happiest dad in the whole wide world. That night, after all the little friends went home, the family gathered in the living room for their usual ritual. Lily reading a story to Edward and Celia. This time, she had chosen a tale she had written. Herself at school about a little star that Lily felt alone, but discovered she was part of a beautiful constellation. And they lived happily ever after, Lily concluded the story. Just like us, Mrs. Celia said affectionately. Just like us, Edward agreed. Outside, the moon shone over the mansion in Beverly Hills, illuminating a small family filled with true love. Lily had gained weight, friends, education, and most importantly, she had won back her father's heart. Edward had learned that being a good father didn't mean shielding his daughter from the world, but rather preparing her to face it with confidence. And Mrs. Celia had found a new reason to live, caring for a child who brought purpose back into her life. The secret Edward had kept for so long was no longer a heavy burden, but a story of transformation and unconditional love. Lily was no longer the hidden girl on the third floor. She was the light of the house, the joy of the school, living proof that true love can heal any wound and transform any situation. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and if you watched until here, comment "I watched until here" and share your thoughts on this story. Oh, and don't forget to watch the next video that appears on the final screen. It's very exciting.